Hey guys, in this video I'm going to review The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD on the Wii U. And I meant to review this game along with Pokemon X and Y a long time ago, around the time they came out actually, but unfortunately I've been pretty busy, so I haven't had the time. I still felt like I should review these games anyway. I'll review Pokemon shortly after this, and I'll also release a review video of Super Mario 3D World, which I've only played the first two levels so far, but my short review so far is that it's pretty much the most fun you can have with a video game. So yeah, look out for those two reviews as well. Let's talk about the Wind Waker. I got the special edition version, which came out. It was like a GameStop exclusive or something, sadly. So it's probably hard to find at this point, but basically just comes with this Ganondorf figurine, which is kind of cool. That's about it actually, but it does have nice like box artwork, like that Link, Ganondorf, and then on the side, oh sorry, yeah, sorry, yeah, it has Zelda. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But let's talk about the actual game. So yes, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker HD. As you can probably tell, this is an HD remake of The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, which came out 10 years ago. As hard as that is to believe, it's kind of weird thinking about The Wind Waker as a quote-unquote retro game, but when Halo 1 came out, we considered games like Donkey Kong Country to be retro, and that game was only 7 years old at that point, so it's kind of weird to think about how that stuff works. But anyway, that aside, this game came out in 2003, obviously, 10 years ago, and I remember picking this up along with Pokemon Sapphire. They came out a few days apart from each other, so it's a pretty good time. So I guess I should go over the history of this game. So, I mean, we all know about the initial reveal of the GameCube Legend of Zelda game at Space World 2000, which was their sort of E3-like convention that was only for Nintendo stuff. It had a more realistic Link, quote-unquote, and Ganondorf, which kind of looks ugly in retrospect. I'm glad they didn't go with that art style. But then a year later, they revealed The Wind Waker as the new Zelda game, and it had a sort of cel-shaded, cartoony art style, which was pretty controversial at the time. A lot of people didn't like it. They're actually pretty angry. Me personally, I was just a kid back then, so I didn't have a strong opinion either way. I just had faith that they would make it work, and I was right, which we'll get into. Just want to throw that out there. So yeah, when this game actually came out, it was dismissed sort of out of hand by a lot of people. I always grouped this game, along with Super Mario Sunshine. They were kind of both weird takes on familiar franchises that turn people off immediately. Like in Zelda's case, the art style, and Sunshine, it was the flood, the water pack, or whatever. And in addition to just being weird, they were kind of just dismissed outright for being quote-unquote kiddie games. It's sort of back when most gamers had like an identity crisis and labeled any game that wasn't trying to, be GTA or Halo. They would just call it kiddie. And of course things have settled down since then, and we've all sort of realized that Nintendo games are for everyone. But yeah, it was definitely a weird time to play Nintendo games. I just also feel like both of the games, both this and Sunshine, were a little undercooked. Like they could have used 9 months more in development time. I kind of have a theory that, the GameCube was doing so poorly for them back then that they just sort of had to like stop development and just release these games as they were. And I think Sunshine was sort of worse in that regard. Like it was almost there, but it had some problems. So that's why I hope that gets an HD remake too, sometime soon. Before I actually talk about the game itself and what I liked and what I didn't like about it, I'll just talk about what they've sort of added and changed to this HD version, in case you've already played the original game. And the first thing I'll start out with is the graphics, because the graphics are more important to this game than they are to any other Zelda game, and they often overshadow the game itself when people talk about it. And so the game runs natively at 1080p, which is nice. Which is actually much higher of a resolution than the original did when it was SD. Let's see. Let me think for a second. So yeah, instead of having a cell shaded look like the original, the character models and the environments have more of a 3D look. They still sort of retain the cartoony style though, just in 3D. Um, I don't have a preference between the cell shaded style and the new style. I think they both work for what they are, and if you have a like, strong preference, you can still play the original. That's my take on it. One thing I will say though about the new art style that that I didn't really like is that they overuse bloom lighting like crazy. Um, like everything has a coat of gloss on it, so like in certain areas everything is just too shiny, which I don't know, it didn't feel right to me. But it's not too much of a problem overall. Um, so let's talk about the actual world itself, like in terms of graphics. Like everything's so well integrated and organic. Everything just feels right, and like that they belong there. Like even familiar items from past games, like the hook shot, they're well integrated into this game, and they feel like a Wind Waker hook shot, like fitting the theme of the world. The hook shot instead of the sort of metallic, device that was no Ocarina of Time in Wind Waker, it's like a rope, which is really cool. And there's no NPC, the sort of non-playable characters that look alike, which is sort of a rarity in video games. So I thought that was really cool. And even, even going down to like the smoke on the bombs when they explode, it looks amazing. But that's going into like really, really minute details, so I won't, keep going on further on the graphics. In general, they're just really good graphics. Okay, but so yeah, let's sort of talk about the other features. One of the big ones is that you can acquire a swift sail fairly early into the game, which increases your sailing speed by two, I believe, or two times. Which that was one of the complaints that people had about the original game was that there was too much sailing and it took a long time. At the time, it didn't bother me, but I feel like if I played it now with the Swift Sail, it'd be a little too tedious. So definitely a great addition overall. You can move while aiming. I don't know why they added this, but I thought it was really kind of cool. So when you're aiming your hook shot or your arrows or whatever, you can move. So you can sort of kind of play like a first-person shooter. I mean, not a very good one, but it's like an interesting, different way to play the game. I just thought I'd point that out. And they added a new hero mode, which is sort of the hard mode. So basically, it's available from the very beginning of the game, and you take double damage, and there are no hearts in the game that you can collect to like increase your life. You can only heal by fairies, soup, potions, or heart piece pickups. So definitely makes the game harder. Because I remember even when this game came out, I one of the things I noticed was this game was much easier than any Zelda game I'd played before. So this is a nice mode that they added to make it a little more challenging. And the new Zelda game, A Link Between Worlds, also has a hero mode. So I think this is going to be a trend for future Zelda games, which is cool. They they sort of lessened the tedium of the Triforce hunting quest. In case you haven't played, it's a really like annoying fetch quest thing near the end of the game, which I'll get into later. But they made it less tedious, but it's still kind of bad, even today. Um, Another small thing, you can alter grapple swing direction while swinging. Doesn't mean anything to you if you haven't played it, but it definitely improves things. The text speed is much faster, which I love. There was like this period for Nintendo games when the text would just move incredibly slowly. I think they're starting to learn though. So there's this game. There's Pokemon X and Y, which has really fast moving text compared to previous Pokemon games. Yes, I know Game Freak isn't Nintendo, but they're heavily influenced by them. And just other stuff in general, the text has been moving a lot faster, so that's a good thing. I'm glad we're getting out of that era. And let's see, Wind Waker songs will no longer repeat themselves after being conducted once, which is a nice little time saver. And there's one feature I didn't think I would like, but I actually really like. It's the quote unquote selfie picture. I hate the word, but I guess it's appropriate here. It's where you can use the camera that you get in the game to take pictures of anything in the environment. This was in the original, but the addition is that you can insert yourself into any picture and choose from 5 different facial expressions. So while you're facing a boss, you can take a picture of the boss and then insert yourself into the image, like with a really like creeped out face. It's hilarious. People have been sharing a lot of these pictures on Miiverse and stuff like that. So it's really surprisingly really fun feature. Yeah, I don't know, but the last thing I'll just mention is that you can play the whole game on the gamepad screen. I wouldn't really recommend it. The resolution on the gamepad just isn't that good. I would rather just play it on the TV. That's how I played the game, but I felt like I should point that out. And there were a ton of other features, by the way. Those were just the ones I felt were the most relevant to me. So let's see. 10 minutes into the video, let's actually talk about the game itself. That sounds like a good idea. So the game plays like most other Zelda games. You go to town, you talk to people there, then you go to dungeons, you get new items in these dungeons. The usual, Zelda formula. But what makes this game unique to other Zeldas is the sailing, which you do often to go from location to location. And most of the map in the game consists of water, so like I said, you'll be doing it a lot. And this is in lieu of a true overworld, which was kind of controversial when the game originally came out. And they actually did admit in a developer interview years later that they actually did do that to cut corners because, developing 3D worlds is very time consuming and difficult. So that's why they did that. It was an easy workaround, let's say. Sorry for my hand getting in the way. It's really annoying, but yeah. So anyway, personally, I would have preferred an overworld, but the sailing works really well in this game. Especially with the new Swift sail. So not too much of a problem, but in future Zeldas, I do hope they have more of an overworld because we haven't had a really good overworld in a long time, in my opinion. Not since Majora's Mask. Okay, so aside from that, though, I guess I'll just throw out random aspects of the game I like and don't like. I thought the beginning of the game had weird pacing because of the first quote-unquote dungeon, which is a stealth area, which they actually did make easier in the HD version, but it's still not a good way of easing in new players. It's just too easy to get caught by the guards if you don't know what you're doing at first, and once you get caught by a guard, you go back to the prison and you have to escape from the prison. It's really annoying your first time through. Like I said, they did make it a little bit easier in this version. But I really did like some of the story stuff they did with the game. For example, after you beat the first few dungeons, you go to an area that's connected to Ocarina of Time, which is really cool. Because it was kind of the first time, for me at least, I know they had little references in other games before, but it was the first time for me that Nintendo really acknowledged that there is a timeline connecting the Zelda games, which is obviously like a very big point of contention these days. The timeline, I mean. And the whole section is really well done. I don't want to spoil how it plays out. So yeah, but they also made Ganondorf an interesting character in the game. Instead of just making him just a bad guy who does bad stuff just cause, they made him more of an interesting character, which they actually haven't done recently, which is kind of weird. And I thought that in terms of the dungeons, I thought they were okay, but they didn't really compare to its predecessors in terms of quality. The dungeons were too linear. Like, I only felt like there was one possible path at any given time to which you had to go through. And I also didn't like how in certain dungeons you can fall into a pit or fire or something and you have to restart whatever puzzle you were doing from the start of the room. And this has been in pretty much every Zelda game, but with this game in particular, I feel like falling can really put you 5 minutes back or more, which is really annoying. But other than those two things, I thought the pacing of the dungeons were pretty good, though maybe a little bit easy. And there definitely weren't enough dungeons in the game. They actually originally cut out 2 dungeons from the GameCube version before it came out due to time constraints, and they couldn't insert them in this remake because those dungeon ideas were added to future Zelda games, so they couldn't do it. But as a result, the game feels a little bit empty near the end, as they force you to do fetch questy things instead, which I didn't like. It made the game feel less substantial to me. Let's see, let me think. Oh yeah, I definitely need to talk about the music of the game, which is really, it's among the best in the series, which is saying a lot because Zelda music in general is just, incredible. But I really suck about I suck at talking about music. Like, I don't know how to really explain that much about it, so I won't go into too much depth. I guess what I will say is that the only reason sailing is actually tolerable in the game, especially back then, because the sailing music is really amazing. It's in Smash Brothers. In case you played that and haven't played this game, it's really great. And I guess just in general, the songs do a good job of conveying whatever atmosphere the game tries to convey throughout the game. And this even trickles down to the combat. Like there are musical elements added to the combat system. Like in general, there's sort of a rhythm to the combat that you have to get used to. Well, not really, but you get it pretty quickly. But yeah, there is a rhythm to the combat, and with each strike of your sword, there's a musical drop, like a small one that conveys that rhythm, which is really cool. They haven't actually done that since Wind Waker, and I don't know why, because it's a really cool feature. It makes the battle system more interesting, in my opinion. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about the game itself. I mean, the game is 10 years old. I'm sure many people who are watching this have already played it, but I think Wind Waker HD still holds up, and I would highly recommend it to everyone. For people who haven't played Wind Waker, it's a no-brainer. Don't be a dummy. You gotta buy this game. For people who have played this game before, though, I would still recommend giving it another go. I mean, it's been 10 years after all, so I mean, it's probably worth going back to if you haven't played it in a while. And the new features, I believe, in my opinion, do help the game out a lot to make it more replayable. And if you're watching this because you're planning on getting a Wii U soon, in this order, I would pick up, if you could get three games, I would pick up Super Mario World, or Super Mario 3D World, like I said, which I'll review soon. Pikmin 3, which I unfortunately didn't get to review, and Wind Waker. So those are three good games to start out with. In terms of how I'd rate it among 3D Zelda games, this is always tough. It's hard to rank Zelda games, but I'd rank it ahead of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, but behind Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And I've already reviewed Ocarina of Time twice, so go check those videos out if you haven't already. But I just feel like Ocarina of Time is... This is controversial, but I said it in one of the other videos. I think Ocarina of Time is the best story ever told. Or, the best adventure ever told, sorry. And that includes any medium, like books, movies, or whatever. I just think it's the quintessential adventure story. Like I said, I went into that a little more in my other videos. And I just think Ocarina of Time, compared to Wind Waker, just had more memorable characters, better dungeons, and a more interesting world. But even so, it's better than 98% of the games you'll play this year. So still a no-brainer. Yeah, I guess I'll stop here with that because this video could go on for even longer. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any suggestions to make my reviews a little better, I know the production quality is crap, but I just mean in terms of what you like about my actual content, like, or what you don't like. All criticism is appreciated, and like I said, thanks for watching, and I'll be reviewing Pokemon and Mario soon.